All right, Cowboys Nation, let me ask you something right now. How desperate are we to fix this secondary? Because what I am about to tell you today, it might shock you. It might divide the fan base. But it could also be the exact move that changes everything for the Dallas Cowboys in 2026. We are talking about two possible solutions at cornerback, one of them a former All-Pro, feared across the league for years, a guy quarterbacks used to avoid completely. But now he is coming off a season full of questions, a massive contract hanging over his head, and whispers that his current team might be ready to move on. And the craziest part, Dallas could land him for almost nothing. Yeah, I am serious. But here's where things get even more interesting. There's also another name gaining traction, a Super Bowl champion, still productive, still physical, still hungry, and seen by some analysts as the perfect fit to bring stability and leadership to one of the worst secondaries in the entire NFL last season. That is not just bad. That is unacceptable for a franchise like this. And let us not sugarcoat it, Cowboys fans. This defense gave up more passing yards than any team in the league in 2025. So now the big question is, do you take a gamble on a declining superstar with a huge price tag? Or do you go after a proven winner who might not be flashy, but brings consistency and leadership? Because one thing is clear. After moving on from key pieces and finishing 7-9, this team cannot afford to get this wrong again. And trust me, what I am about to reveal next, with the names and the trade details and the risks and the upside, it is going to make you look at this offseason in a completely different way. But before we go any further, if you are a real Cowboys fan, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, because we are on the road to 15,000 subscribers, and I only want the real ones riding with us on this journey. Now tell me in the comments, which move would you make if you were in charge? Because coming up next, I am breaking down exactly who these players are, what it would cost, and whether this could actually bring the Cowboys back to playoff contention. Cowboys Nation, I need you to really think about this one. What if I told you the Dallas Cowboys could land a former All-Pro Super Bowl champion cornerback for the price of a fifth-round pick? Yeah, I am talking about Jalen Ramsey possibly wearing the star. But here is the real question. Is this a genius move to fix the secondary or a desperate gamble on a declining star? Now let us get into this, because this one is deep. According to Bleacher Report, there is a proposed trade between the Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys receive Jalen Ramsey. Steelers receive 2026 fifth-round pick number 150. Let me say that again. A fifth-round pick. That is basically a lottery ticket. And that alone should make every Cowboys fan stop and think. Why is a player like Ramsey even available for that price? Let us be honest. The Cowboys are in a tough spot right now. After moving on from Trevon Diggs, your secondary looks very different. The only true proven piece is Darren Bland. And we all love Bland, but he cannot do it alone. This defense needs experience, versatility, leadership in the secondary, and that is exactly where Ramsey comes into the conversation. Now, let us not sugarcoat it. Ramsey was not elite last season. Here are the numbers. 70.4% completion rate allowed, 118.1 passer rating when targeted. Those are not shutdown corner numbers, not even close. And on top of that, he got moved around a lot. Played outside corner, played slot, even moved to safety late in the season. That tells you something. Teams are trying to adapt his role because he is not the same guy he used to be. Here is where things get tricky. Ramsey carries a $19.5 million cap hit in 2026. That is a lot of money for a player who is 31 years old, coming off a down year and changing positions. And here is the key detail. If the Steelers cut him, they save all that money with zero dead cap. So ask yourself, why would Dallas trade for him instead of just waiting? But let me flip the script for a second, because there is a scenario where this move makes a ton of sense. First, versatility is elite. Even at this stage, Ramsey can still play outside and play slot and play safety. That is huge for a defense that needs flexibility. Imagine lining him up all over the field depending on the matchup. That is chess, not checkers. Second, football IQ and leadership. This is something stats do not show. Ramsey brings veteran presence and film study knowledge and communication in the secondary. And for a unit that just lost stability, that matters a lot. Third, this is a low-risk, high-reward opportunity. Let us be real. This is the definition of a buy low move. If Dallas can restructure the deal or get Pittsburgh to eat some salary, you might get a motivated Ramsey trying to prove he is still elite. And we have seen this before in the NFL. Veterans bounce back all the time in the right system. All right, Cowboys Nation, here is where I stand. I do not want this move at full price. No way. But if this becomes a low-cost restructured deal, and if you are not giving up real assets, then I am in. Because right now, the Cowboys do not have the luxury of being picky. They need help in the secondary. This rumor tells me one thing. The Cowboys know the defense is not where it needs to be, and they are at least exploring aggressive options. That is a good sign, because standing still in the NFL, that is how you fall behind. Now, let me ask you something real quick. What if the Cowboys just found the missing piece for their secondary and nobody is talking about it enough? I am serious. After a disaster of a season defensively, after giving up more passing yards than any team in the league, Dallas might be targeting a Super Bowl champion cornerback who could instantly change everything. And his name is Jamal Dean. But here is the real question. Is he the solution or just another temporary fix? Let us not sugarcoat it, Cowboys Nation. The 2025 season, it was rough. The Dallas Cowboys finished with a 7-9 record, missed the playoffs again, and had one of the worst pass defenses in football. They allowed the most passing yards in the entire NFL. That is not just bad. That is unacceptable for a team that expects to compete for a Super Bowl. And then what happened? They moved on from Trevon Diggs, which means now you do not just need depth. You need a legit starter. You need leadership. You need stability. So Bleacher Report says Jamal Dean could be a perfect fit for Dallas. And honestly, I get it. Let us talk about why. First, size, speed, and physicality. Dean brings something this defense desperately needs. Elite straight-line speed, strong press coverage ability, physical presence on the outside. At 6'1" with legit speed, he matches up well with today's NFL receivers, and in a division with explosive offenses that matters a lot. Second Super Bowl experience, let us not forget Dean was part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that won Super Bowl LV. That is not just a nice bonus. That is huge. Because right now, this Cowboys defense lacks big game experience and championship mentality and proven winners in key spots. Dean brings all of that into the locker room. At third, production plus consistency. Now, Dean is not a flashy highlight machine corner. He is not going to give you 10 interceptions. But what he does give you is reliable coverage, fewer blown assignments, consistent outside presence. And after what we saw last season, consistency might be exactly what this team needs. All right, let us not act like this is perfect, because it is not. Age plus timeline. Dean is 29 years old. That is not old, but it is not young either. So the question becomes, does he fit the long-term plan, or is this just a short-term patch? Market competition. If Dean hits free agency, he is not going to be cheap. And more importantly, the Cowboys will not be the only team interested. Multiple teams need corners, so Dallas might have to pay up or risk losing him. Is he a true CB1? This is the big question. Is Jamal Dean a true shutdown CB1 or a really solid CB2? Because if you are bringing him in to be the guy that is a lot of pressure. All right, Cowboys Nation, here is where I stand. I actually like this move a lot, because this team does not need another risky experiment right now. It needs stability, experience, professional level consistency, and Dean gives you that. But I am not overpaying. If the price gets crazy, I am out, because this roster still has multiple holes to fix. This rumor tells us something very important. The Cowboys know the secondary is broken, and they are actively looking for proven veterans and championship players and immediate impact guys. That is a shift in mindset. And honestly, it is about time. So when you compare both options, you have to weigh the risks and rewards. Ramsey has the higher ceiling, but also the higher risk with age and contract and declining production. Dean has the safer floor with championship experience and consistency, but might not be the true lockdown CB1 this team needs. If I had to choose right now, I would probably lean toward trying to get Ramsey on a restructured deal first. If that does not work out, then pivot to Dean in free agency. Either way, this secondary needs help badly, and both players would be upgrades over what we saw last season. Now I want to hear from you, Cowboys Nation. Would you trade for Jalen Ramsey, or would you wait and try to sign him cheaper? Would you sign Jamal Dean? Do you see him as a CB1 or CB2? Or should Dallas go younger at the position? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I am reading everything. And if you are rocking with the channel, like the video and subscribe right now. Help us reach 15,000 subscribers, because this offseason, it is heating up fast and we are covering every move. Cowboys Nation, let us ride.